Hi everyone, welcome back into the studio. Well, last week, of course, we've been going through the holidays here, so I'm sorry for not filming during that time, but I spent a lot of time with my family and my grandkids, and it was a lot of fun. But last week I also filmed this one that you see here. And I really enjoyed it. I've been promising you to do some more running water and some rocks and stuff, and I really enjoyed it. But I didn't capture, one of the things I wanted to do was to capture this fall, this downward fall of rocks and water coming over it, and set up what we call linear planes into the background. And I got so wrapped up into painting that water there, and so it looks like the water is just running down instead of falling like I wanted to. So I needed to add some more rocks. And so I'm going to redo it here. And I'm also going to increase the size. That one is done on a 12 by 16 on a canvas board. I moved it up to a 14, so it's 14 inches this way, 18 inches this way, a wood panel. Primed it with some of the canvas prep medium, and then kind of sketched on some of the rocks where I want this fall. So I don't have this fall that you see right here coming down and coming down. I want to add that into it. Now I'm going to go ahead and put this other video up into the membership. So those of you that are members of the channel will be able to watch that one, because I really like how the rocks and how I did the rocks, especially the rocks that are out into the sunlight, out on the left side. So I'll be painting some of those again so you'll get an idea, but they'll be a little bit different because I do paint a little different every time. All right, so I have sketched some of this out, and now we're going to proceed right through the back. And so what I've done on the other one is I worked from the light spot. So we have the light coming in just like you see over here. Now these are photos that I got off of Adobe Stock. I like to buy my photos off of Adobe Stock because I like supporting the photographers who give me the ideas. However, I changed it a lot, and I actually combined a couple of photos together. And so I ended up doing one that is right out over here that has the light and stuff that you see over there into the back. So I want to put that back in there. Those of you that are, again, those are the members, I'll put some of these photos up so that you can take a look at them for inspiration as well. So, but let's get into it. So I'm going to take a larger brush. These are my normal colors. I did add out medium beige because I like that when I paint some of these real warm rocks. The medium beige color is a pre-mixed color, and it's made from burnt umber, yellow oxide, and some titanium white. And you can tell that by the chemical index numbers that are names that are right here. You can tell what is in that, and it's an opaque color. So it's burnt umber, yellow oxide, and white that makes this particular color. So if you don't have medium beige and you have those other pigments, you can make it. But so anyway, so I have that out. And then, of course, I have my regular colors that I have out here for the painting. And let's get into it. I'm going to take some extender. And the first thing I'm going to do with it, this is my 2-inch Fusion flat brush. Used to be a varnish brush. And then as they get older, I don't ever throw them away. I just recycle them into landscape painting brushes because they do a lot. I'm going to put a light coat of this over because I want to keep everything here kind of transparent through. I want to create a lot of interest opposite what you see here, that light interest right in through here. And so I want to start out kind of transparent to begin with. So first, let's just take that big brush, a little Diarylide and a little yellow, Hansa Yellow. We'll add a bit of extender into this, and we're going to wash that light, very bright little light right back in through there, that the light is coming in on the back side of the painting there. Now, as you add white, white is also, a lot of people don't know, white is also a toner, and it has to be because white is the reflection of all colors. So white is a toner in this. So as I put it on, I'm going to lighten its value, but I'm going to reduce its intensity here. See how the intensity drops down? So I want to add some of this down through here, and we want to model it here. We want this modeling of the light So you get these rays kind of light. Now you can pull some down, pull it through like rays of light are like coming down through. You can do that. I'm not going to do that much to it. Most of that is going to cover up. So that's basically where I'm going to start it, right in there. Now, to get some of the other colors or some of the other, I want to push some of these back trees and stuff here. And I'm just going to take some burnt sienna right into some of that yellow and some green. And not mix it up real well, but I'm going to pull some of this through here. I'll use a combination of my knife and my brush here in just a minute. But I want to create this real casual greenish area here that is basically the trees and stuff that you see back here. I'm going to push this on with my knife first. This is my Liquitex number 5 angled knife. I love painting landscapes with this. And I'll push some over here to this side. Just get that nice mottled color in there. And then I'm going to get rid of some of that extender out of my brush. Just pinch wipe it with your paper towel. We call it a pinch wipe. It pulls the moisture out. I don't want a tremendous amount of moisture in this. Okay. Too much moisture will cause the paint to move too fast, and I don't want to do that. So I want to come in here and just pull across and blur. This is what I call blurring some of that color. Don't want to take it out. I just want to blur it. And sometimes I like to leave that little bit of light through there so it looks like, light coming up and through, the area here. So let's just blur this out a bit. Here, pull a couple of horizontals, a couple of verticals, blur it out, blur out the colors. And so you'll get some of that feeling of the light going through there. Now, I'm going to go back to my brush here, and let's go into some burnt sienna, a little bit of green. And you can add, like I like on that one that's up there, I like the idea of a tree trunk right in here. Maybe a couple of them here, okay, the ideas of those. And some of these just kind of pulled out. Now, if it's too wet, it'll blur really fast. And so I suggest you let it dry a little bit. I'm an acrylic painter. I like to work on dry surfaces, and I'm a tonal painter. In other words, I like to mix a tone and put that on rather than blending. I'm not a blender, and I used to be for many years a blender, but I don't like that anymore. I find I get more interest by painting into the tones here. So we'll have some rocks, we'll have some other little things. I want to give the idea or the impression of some of these edges and stuff coming here like this, like the edge of a tree here. Let's put a few of these, edges here. Like these are the edges of the boughs of a nice pine or something here showing through into the background, maybe the idea here. Sometimes I like to pull it this way, like that, of a tree. Here, let's put a little bit more burnt sienna in that. And let's try not to make our tree so crooked, Dave. Here, ideas of some of this, and just kind of model that up a bit and blend that out through the back. Little bits of stuff here. Disappearing back through there. Does that make sense? That's what I want to have, the impression of that, disappearing back through there. Just stuff. There you go, movements. Okay, and then back up through here, we can maybe make a touch more pine coming through here. Imagine another tree. Sometimes when I paint a very mottled background like this, I will sometimes reach out and touch little bits of light. And I'll get rid of just a couple of those spots. But I'll bring light in, and that just, again, this adds much. But I want to keep that mottly color back in there. That works really well. Maybe a bit darker, more burnt sienna and green right up here to create some additional depth right in there. Here's some of this right in there. That's good. So now I create that light. Now you can come back, and it might be good here. I'll just set that brush into the water for just a second. might be good. I'll pinch wipe my 3/4 inch brush. I love the 3/4 inch and the 1 inch. And just push in a touch more of that Diarylide Yellow right in there. So I get some of that nice bright yellow coming right in there. Just a bit of it coming in and through. Some of that peeking through some of this right into there. Like that's the light coming in through the base of it. Now, this is really kind of busy. I might soften that down, just come in with my burnt sienna and my green, and you just pull in some horizontals and some verticals, and that'll start calming some of that down here. You don't want it too busy because that's going to compete with our water and stuff, but we do want to have a bit of that. That's better. You can also, if you want to bring some in, tap with your paper towel to bring some of that movement back. You know, imagine like little edges of the pine trees and stuff coming through. We can put some light color back in there. I didn't do it on the original one that I pulled, but you could pull some in there and bring some of that light tree color right back in there. Maybe a few little hits of that would work. And so you would grab like your yellows, your lighter yellows, a bit of just a touch of the pine green. Keep this lighter yellow, a lot of the yellows. Pine green is very powerful when it's when it contacts the yellow, so it takes just a bit of that. But you can add a few little marks of that, like, you know, a few light hits in there to just say, yeah, you hit a couple of light trees, couple of that light that's moving. We're going to move through the composition. The light hits a few of those forward areas of branches and stuff. And if you get too much, just take some of the dark and push that out here. The thing is that I like to stay casual and impressionistic. And so, yeah, and so I like that right there. Maybe a touch of the yellows, just a few little hits of those right out towards the front. Maybe just a hit of that right out in here, just to say we did it. That's a bit too much, so I'll take a bit of dark and just move through that and just take some of that out. So there, so now I like that. Okay, so now we're going to start coming forward into here. So I want to set up some of my back. I have some rocks there, and I want to set up the back. And what I want to do with this water, and I'm going to do it just a little bit different than I did on the other one, because I got that other one, that one is right there, which I really like, but I don't want it quite as blue this time around. I do like painting the blue water, you know, into some of those streams, and it's hard for the cameras to pick it up, but this water is very blue. I'm going to do it a little different. I'm going to take some of that beautiful phthalo blue and my burnt sienna here, which will gray this down quite a bit. And I'm going to take my big brush with some extender, so I'm not completely mixed up. See how you can see some of the color here? Not completely mixed up. This is what I call modeling. You can see this modeling through it. And I want this a bit transparent, so take it off here to the side, and you can see you get some of those streaks. I want it a bit transparent here. And what I'm actually doing here, and I'm going to model this like this, but I want to get some of these feeling of this lateral movement of what we call linear perspective, and then a little darker coming forward here. But I want to get some of this actually will make the feeling of the bottom of the water. So we'll get some of this in here, just like that. Poke around my little holder there. So yeah, just sometimes you can pull it down. I do like strong verticals and horizontals. You know that in my Those of you that paint a lot of landscapes with me, those are the powerful lines of depth, and I like to add those. So we got some of that. Now, we can also just lightly add a few marks of this. Take away some of the light of our board, the white of our board. There's a lot of, landscape painters that say you should never paint on pure white, your landscape on pure white. And, excuse me, there's a certain extent that I believe that. For certain instances, I paint a lot of different looks, so I don't like to put myself or my creativity in a box and say, you never do that. I just don't do that because I like to explore a lot of possibilities. And so I don't think you should ever say, you must always paint on a toned canvas or a toned what we call ground. I don't always believe that. Okay, so now where I made the mistake, so I got that up there on that one and I really liked it. And I made the mistake of getting into my water and my rocks too much and forgetting about my linear perspective or the planes that I wanted to establish back here, or what we call the fall of the rocks. And so I'm going to put some rock shapes in right now that will help me keep that in perspective. So I'm going to take some of my burnt sienna, some of my medium beige, some burnt sienna, some blue. And these will make just nice gray colors here. Just some nice grays. And I'm going to start, first I'm going to start with just a few shapes that I know. So here's a lighter shape that I know right out in here. I'm going to keep these a little bit transparent. So where you see on my drawing here, where you see that downward motion in there, that's where I'm going to tell myself I want to start a little darker. That's the shadow side of the rock. So one of the things we really should get into right away is light is coming back through this way. It's coming from left to right, behind and then to the front. And I want to hit this rock right here into the light, right up in here, right up into the light, and bring it somewhat forward here, nice big one, and then put some others in there. And then, so it's being struck by the light, but a lot of this will be down in shadow. So, and that's why these angled sides here are basically to the shadow. So basic on a rock is you're going to have light from right and shadow to the left. So, and shadows in good landscapes, shadows should always be a little more transparent. So I'll come in here. Let's just drop in some deeper shadows here as well while we do this. But we want to, I don't want to get wrapped up into the shape or stuff and light and shadow as much as I do making sure I preserve the fall. So I'm going to come in here first, a little shadow, a little light and a little shadow, medium color actually, shadow. Carry this into the water just a bit. So these are the shadow lines that you saw in my drawing, where I want to create the fall coming down, a little more transparent back here, but I want to put up a linear plane, if that makes sense, of rocks. So you see a linear planes of rocks coming down. Excuse me. And you'll actually feel the rocks get a little, and see the rocks get a little bigger as they come forward here. Okay, so I'll play that nice big shadow there up against this one here. And these shadows, I'm going to put a lot into these shadows. So this is just a beautiful, see how mottled it is? That little bit of extender just causes this color to slide really easy. And I like that. And all of this is going to change. I'm going to keep this really transparent, so as I'm putting it on here, you'll see a lot of streaks, which will, help my shapes and stuff here later on. But you'll see a lot of streaks, but those will all start to soften and go away as I start to paint more. Now, I'll carry into the water just a little bit, because water, depending upon, of course, how much, and you've seen me say this in so many other paintings, how much foam and movement we put into the water, you'll see the rocks transparently casting down into the water. And sometimes if it's a real still water, not only will you see the rock, you know, down in through the water, but you also see the reflection of the rock onto the water. So carrying it a little bit further past your water line, the line that you kind of imagined where your water's going to be, is important. And we can always soften and take it out. So, and I'm going to use, you know, I have my other painting there, and I'm going to do what I tell you guys to do all the time. I'll use that for inspiration. I am not going to copy it. This is going to be a little different. Of course, I've got more fall to the rocks back here. So I'm going to have water coming over the rocks here. So I want to put that shadow right here. Basically what I want, you see, is this line of rocks and this line of rocks. So here's one fall, a second fall. This will be another one right in here. Let's go back to some of that medium tone right in here. And as I get to the medium tones, I'm going to get a little heavier with some of my rock colors. Let's push some of this right in here. I want some of these rocks I do here. I want so you can see it's going to have a tremendous amount more rocks than what that one, as I'm going to pull these rocks across here. I'm going to lighten up, which warms up just a bit more of some of this brown, this beige here. Push some of these warmer rocks right in here, and I'll push water right over the edges of these. Okay, so I'll run water over it. So I'm going to paint these rocks like the water's not there right now. You know, and there are times where I don't do that with some paintings, and then there are times where I do that in some paintings where I want to get a lot of interest into the water and stuff. I just paint it like the water isn't there, and then I add the water to it. All right, so I want some of this nice warmth. Let's add some more yellow and a little bit of white. This is going to be the warm rock that I want right up here, that is being hit by the sunshine right up here. And I want its edges to blur down in, and then it gets this broken edge right here, right down into the shadow side there. Okay? So immediately as I'm painting some of these rocks, let's lighten and warm that a little bit more. We're going to put some light grays and some beautiful colors into this nice broken colors here later on in the painting. But as I want to immediately start to see the planes, at least 2 planes. Rocks are 3 planes. They are the light struck plane. There's a light struck plane. They are receding planes and then shadow planes. That's how we paint them. And you don't always see all 3 planes, but the majority of the time you do. So here you'll see, okay, I'm going to have these rocks go back, maybe a bit of this warm light right back in through here. We'll do some fun things back through here, move some water. Right now, as I'm putting this color on, I'm kind of getting the feeling of the rocks, the impressions of the rocks, but the one thing that you don't do is don't do any texture. You don't want any texture, because texture will get in the way of if you change your mind later on. Does that make sense? So keep your shadows transparent. Your lights can be a little more opaque, but stay away from some textures. Let's go into some grays, some beautiful blue grays, which will be on the cooler side of those rocks. So I'm going to go burnt sienna and some blue, sometimes a little bit of my violet. I love the violet. I'm going to be adding more of that in today's water as well. We'll cool off these grays. A little bit more blue. There we go. Nice, cool, kind of a gray color. And let's get that. These are the rock colors that'll come down in here into the shadow. So you can see I'll push this in, and I'll add some of this almost like a receding plane right in between my light and shadow on some of these other rocks. So that color would come right in here, right between the light and shadow, see? And as this rock back here heads into shadow, and it's a beautiful color between the warms and the cools of your rocks. See? Here we go. And of course, lots of color. We have lots of color coming. But I might head this one back into some shadow back here. So this rock, this really needs to, let's get a touch warmer. I love to mix color, so I don't mind going back and mixing more warm again and all that stuff. I love the art of mixing color, so I don't mind going back and forth between my colors as I work some of this out. And mixing, I love to mix. I'm a tone painter. And so if you don't, you can pre-mix up a bunch of different colors and add a little extender to them and it'll all stay wet. But your painting doesn't get that spontaneity and that change that comes if you just mix, brush mix as you go. You get a lot of differences and stuff. And I look where I could add some of those tones and stuff to really punch up some of the composition here. And let's get a little darker blue right in here, that blue-gray. Maybe that goes down into my water a bit. Creates a nice contrast in there. Okay, let's go back. Not quite as warm a gray, but maybe a little bit of the warmth right in here. We'll set this rock in. Of course, since, you know, left side is shadow side on these things, I will have a lot of shadow on these. Let's just drop some of that in. So I'll work back and forth. See, I just, before when I used to, and in some of the other videos I showed you, I go through and I'll add the shadows, then I'll add the receding tones, the mid-tones, and then I'll add the light tones. And each time I work, I get a little bit more opaque, so the shadows are always transparent. But you can do it this way, working 2-3 rocks at a time. You get a lot of variation of your colors that way, which is what I really like. I used to always, worry about my rocks. Now I just love painting them because I love the colors of them. Let's put some of this out in here. Get some of these big, powerful shadows here. As a matter of fact, I might go just a bit of extender in my bigger brush here. Bigger brush, less brush marks, softer effect, but I'm going to go dark here, so this pulls your eye forward here. Just not quite as transparent, but you can see that big brush. You can model on a lot of beautiful color very quickly here. And so this will just get some of this on. And let's go to some of this nice, soft, beautiful gray here. Push some of that in. A little bit of this and some beige and some white. Beautiful gray colors. Each time, though, it's changing a bit, see? We'll get these big rocks. We'll break some of the big ones up into smaller ones later on. But, sometimes, and you get these big, huge, like we do along the Platte up here. We get some of these big, and this is actually, this photo is that I got from Adobe is of the Platte. So, and the Platte runs, of course, the Platte, it's quite a big river. It runs through several states, but we have the Platte here. And so I'll push some of this a little bit gray, a little cooler, bit of violet blue, and this a little cooler than this warmer beige. I want everything a little cooler, maybe just a touch more blue here into that. Let's look at that. Yeah, see, that's a beautiful, kind of a cool color. And since it's a mid-tone and stuff, it could go a touch more opaque, but we'll take some of this out, just making this nice rocky ledge here. I like that. And this larger brush is working so nice. You'll see some of the videos I paint even of the roses. I use a real large brush. And I like to rock and roll the brush to get different edges. I like to, just follow Sargent. Some of you that follow me, I mention him all the time. John Singer Sargent, one of the greatest impressionist painters of the 19th century. And his old philosophy was use as large a brush as you can. And I hear that sometimes in other artists on YouTube and other teachers, and I know they also have studied that as well. And it's true. When I use the larger brush, I get more, my paintings aren't as stiff because you accomplish in just like one or two strokes where what you don't do in several strokes with a smaller brush, which tends to be, if you're like me, a left brain painter, I've fought that all my life, you tend to make the marks all the same. So here, as I'm going through, I'm turning my brush using different corners and edges, and different colors come out here as I'm looking through what I need to write. And see that beautiful mottled stroke, that mark that comes right down there from that big brush. Look at how it does a lot of the work of the rock here, see? A lot of that work, because it's carrying so much color, so much movement and stuff. So, and let's get some of these blues in here. Here, let's just put up an edge here of this. Maybe this is another rock right here. A couple of them. And so you can see, a lot of times I used to, paint the rocks, envision the rocks, and draw patterns of them and stuff. And now I like to put these colors on, and I really like to, just like I do a dog portrait or a portrait or even the roses, I like to sketch with my darks. So I'll put, my darks come back in as I start to refine my darks. I let those darks do a lot of the sketching of my design here. So you can see, there we go. So now you get the feeling here. It's a heck of a lot more rocks that were going on in there. So what I want to do is I want to bring that water in right here, fall it down right in through here. Here's another line of rocks, fall it down. Does that make sense? And so now I'm going to come through with a little more burnt sienna and blue here and model this up a bit, but I'll look for some deeper shadows, and real careful about how far back in the composition I go, because the deeper the shadow, the more forward you take that water. Now, you can also do fun things like we do, in painting lakes and stuff. As you pull down, you can imagine some of it as reflections and stuff here, but we're going to add a lot of movement. But sometimes I will do this. I will do the pulling down just so I see it, where my water line is a bit more, and pull that down, and I can see where my water is going to be coming into the painting here. Let's add this other dark back in here. Maybe edge, another little edge. Maybe there's just a bit of the rock poking up right here. Okay, so, and it gets darker as it comes forward. I might, like, fun little things, like bring a little water right there and let it drop off. That would be kind of fun right in there. So we'll do all of that fun stuff here. As you go further back, add a little extender. Maybe head to a touch more light, because you're heading back into that composition where those colors are getting lighter. And, add a bit of that lightness back there, right? A little bit of that lightness. Let's go a little warmer. Let's start using some good palette maintenance here. So we'll go lighter, warmer here, just a touch grayer here. Lighter, warmer, and you can get a little bit of that blue out into these warm colors with just a touch of red. It'll take, these two are almost complements to each other. These are direct complements, the blue and the burnt sienna and stuff. But that blue and that Naphthol Red Light is almost a complement to each other, because the Naphthol Red Light is a red-orange. and the phthalo is a blue-green, so they're almost complements to each other. But we can set some of that look of some softer rocks back there. Maybe a little bit of the light hits back there. See, and that's where I love the big brush. I can set up the idea of a couple of larger rocks back there. And to really define them, I'll have to go to my smaller brush. But for right now, I can just dance that around a little bit. Let's dance just a bit of the horizontal in there. The fall, right? The fall of this down. Push this down. Blur this back, going back. And that's what creates the depth into your painting. But see, we want some of these horizontal lines, these linear lines, and that's what creates a lot of the depth going back. Some soft shadows back here. In other words, not as dark as what you see back here or up here in the front. Not quite as dark. We'll set in some shapes here like that. That's good. Maybe a bit of those shapes just come out here like rocks coming across. So I want to create that fall. Now you can, and you have to be a little careful that you don't get too much edges, too much definition there. But working a few edges with your knife, like you've seen me so many times do edges. The knife paints beautiful edges, especially onto your rocks. And so you can use that to start adding some, but make sure the edges are going to be more up here in the front. Like I can pull this linear plane. Let's pull a linear plane right here down. And I have this modeled on my knife, a little bead of the color, light pressure. And I'll just pull down so I don't destroy all my modeling. And you'll see I get a nice rock right there. Let's pull this edge right down here. And the hardest thing is that one knife will make you paint a lot the same. So you do want to give some structure, some difference right in there. Let me just continue on with that. Lighten this up a bit, warm it. We're gonna model in a lot of colors on this, but we'll lighten this and warm this and pull. See, I picked up a little of that gray from that was there already, and that's okay. That works right into this rock, and it's going to work. As long as you keep this like this modeled, see, that's where your beautiful rocks will come from. This modeling, holding your knife flat. Don't push too hard. We push harder to burnish or blend out. We don't push too hard if we want to impart color. So don't push too hard here because we want to impart color on this rock. And I did this rock in two parts on the other one here, so I might do that. But those of you that are members, you can go over and watch that other one and see how I'm going to do the rocks just a little bit different. But we can add a little crack into that one here. Just run your knife, a little mottled color. Pull out of that crack a bit so you get a touch of a receding plane in there. Run that crack. Look for some broken color. Broken color means that, you see in my knife, I kind of almost removed some of the color there because the color is very wet and it was too thin. So it removes it. So I want to model back up here some of my blues and my burnt siennas, a little bit of brown. And I want to lightly touch onto this so I can start putting on more color. I don't want to take all of that off because that model, that where I remove some of that, just gives a good look to the rock. Let's take some of this nice warm right into here. And so I'll hit just some edges of some light. Now, I do this with with a brush as well. You see me do this on the sides of rocks with a brush, but a knife, if you can learn how to work your knife into getting some of these colors in there, your knife just does it so nice. And so, I want to see, it's very, It's not stiff. It's very unique into it. It puts on a more natural look. So you can just pull down some of the planes of the rocks there, like that. And it gives a very natural look to the rocks. But it's a matter of consistency here. Okay, I'm feeling the paint on my surface. And the paint on my surface, because that initial coat of extender that we did, what, 40 minutes ago, right? Some of you that always say, oh, acrylics dry too fast. No, you've watched me paint this whole thing, right? Here's my colors and stuff that I have. My rock there is still wet. Do you see that? This whole area here, this water, this rock, this what I've done down in here, that's still wet. See? That's all still wet. And so, you know, and you can, but you have to learn how to use the stuff. There is no, it's like those of you that have the open medium. Now, this is the open medium, right? This is the Matisse Deravan open medium that we formulated that works with our paint, that's formulated to work with our paint. So they're very compatible. You put that open medium out, and I shocked a bunch of my students. I had some people painting in here before Christmas, right around the 19th of December, and they came back in on Christmas Eve, on New Year's Eve. So that's 2 weeks later, and it was still wet sitting on my palette from where you started here. And they were shocked, absolutely shocked. And it is, when you think about it, it's a fantastic formula. The open medium will stay wet. Now, what you have to learn how to do is how to combine that into your acrylics, into the proportions that you like to keep it as wet as long as you want, or workable as long as you want. Does that make sense? But there is no magic. It's practice and learning those consistencies. Here I'm just going to model up a little more blue, some other grays right here with this, and put in some other colors right in here and look for some of that I can add here. I'm going to add a lot more warmth up in here onto this one, but I want to add, and I'll let some of these textures come out here on these rocks here as well. I'm going to let some of this stay kind of textured. Let's put a bit of that right in there. Maybe make that rock face right there at that angle. Then we'll pull a receding side right over here. Let's just push that up and push it out of the way here. See, that makes a pretty little rock as I start to paint that. And I want to get more shadows down there. So, you know, this is the part I like. I love to mix and watch the colors change. So let's take some of this. This is beautiful. Look at that. That's beautiful. Kind of burnt sienna in it. That'll be pretty right in there. A little blue, a little burnt sienna right on the side of that rock there. I'm going to put a bit of that right in there. It's a pretty color. Let's go a little bit more blue down here in the darker part. Right in there. Now, I can also go back to my big brush, take this and soften that. Light pressure going across, light pressure. Barely touch the surface here, right? And create that. Let's just create a bit darker right in here. I love this, as I'll start to draw and find that breaking edge of the plane of that rock. Maybe another little plane right there. And sometimes I'll take a touch of that dark right up here as a mark, right up against the cut edge, and it makes more of a defined, really sharp cut edge right there on that rock. Very interesting, you know, part of it. So, combining both your lights and your darks and your shadows and the brushes and the knife, you know, changing up your tools, changing up your colors, adds so much, guys. Let's take a touch of burnt sienna right with this into a little bit of blue. Let's add that warm of that burnt sienna right in there on the sides of these rocks, right there. A little bit back in here, a little bit back in there. These are the small little color marks that just add so much. Look for some of the streaks in your rocks, right? See all the, by brush mixing and changing like this, I'm adding so much interest into these rocks, you know, and it's time. But, you know, you look at it, what, we're 45, not even quite 45 minutes into the painting. Now, one of the things that's helping me a lot is that I've painted something very similar. So this is my second time through, and my second time through, I know what I did wrong on the first time, and I'm coming back and correcting some of it. Does that make sense? Now, and that's the reality of it. So, you know, as long as I am concentrating on my values, this is what you concentrate on, your values, your light and dark, your three areas, your light struck plane, your receding plane, your shadow plane. I'm concentrating on my temperatures, the warms and cools, including more blue and violet onto the side of the shadows. But I can break up some of the shadow with a little bit of burnt sienna every once in a while. That's just such a great thing to do. But that just gives this variation of the tones. So I'm concentrating on those temperatures and concentrate on those edges so I can get a real sharp edge. Now, I don't want to come back here in the back of my painting and put a sharp edge. I will destroy the depth. So you can see how that goes this way. If I come back in here and I put a sharp edge back there, a dark color, I've just destroyed the depth of my painting. I can have a little bit of it, but as I start to blur off that edge and remove some of that shadow, the depth comes further back. See how it shoves that further back? So, you know, and it is a matter of trial and error sometimes, you know, as you're putting some of those colors back there. And you want that to just get blurry back here. Just start to fade away and get blurry back there. And that's what's going to shove it further back. So let's come back in a little bit of our beige and blue. And another beautiful, beautiful rock color. I didn't put that out. I did on the other one there that I really like into rocks is the Sapphire Blue. And I got a little bit left here. The Sapphire Blue. Sapphire Blue is made from black, white, phthalo blue, and ultramarine blue. So it's adding a ultramarine pigment into the mix, which is a blue violet, and it really makes beautiful grays. But you've seen me in the last couple westerns paint some of the rocks with the combination of the blue, the sapphire blue, and so you can see the difference. It's very warm till it starts to cool, and especially if you add just a touch of the violet into that blue, a little quinacridone into that blue, you get beautiful, cooler colors. And those just look fantastic, especially as I'm heading over here into the shadows that I want over here on this side of the rocks. Some of these shadows, big planar rocks here. I can break them up a bit, break up some of their shapes and forms and stuff here, and which I will do, but I want to keep some of these colors cool. I want it like it hit the light is going to hit right over there. And then I'll push these other colors right in there. That's going to be great. So I'll drop some of that. Let's get some shadows back in there. Some violets, some blues, some burnt siennas here. Some stronger shadows. Maybe a little green and red. That'll warm it a bit, but we could have a touch of that warmth in there. But let's get some of these look at these various tones. Drag it up here a bit so to create some of the broken areas of some receding planes here as well. And because the rocks aren't smooth, they're all pitted and everything. And you've got to imagine that as you're painting them. There'll be highs and lows and little pock marks and pits in them and stuff here. You know, so that helps. Yeah, rocks are a lot of fun. I used to, you know, just really avoid painting them sometimes in my paintings because I didn't completely understand them. And now, especially after painting those of you that are painting the westerns with me this year, we really dived into a lot of rocks, and it's changed a lot of things Let's get a little more blue into that. I want that bluish kind of cast into my receding tones and shadow tones back here. Drop some of that in. Some of that right up into, blur those colors right in there, right? There we go. Little bit of shadow here. So if I add another little broken plane of shadow, I break up the actual size of the rocks a bit, right? You go, so you can determine, let's break this one up a bit. So let's just take this right here into shadow, right here, right into shadow on that one. Pull this so it comes back a little bit receding. Let's take a bit of our lighter and raise the plane up a little higher. Matter of fact, let's do that with our knife. A little bit of white and blue and medium beige. Cooler color, but a little lighter. Model some of this together. Not perfect, but just model some of that. And let's just drop that right in here, right on that rock. See? Create slightly lighter, different size. A bit of that color can go right down onto this one here, just like that, right? There we go. Bit of that right down in here. I don't want to, you know, I always like, one of the things that I like to do is I'll express a color and then I'll move a color. Up here I'll use it a bit more edgy because I'm on a forward rock, so a little texture, a little edge as I'm bringing that rock right there, touch forward. The edge brings it forward, that nice sharp edge. See, I'll push that texture and stuff right there up onto that edge. And as I get to the last of some of the rocks here, I will start adding textures, which is something we avoided here just 30 minutes ago. Now we can start looking, as I'm shaping up some of these rocks, we can look into some of those textures. That's too much samey right there. So I'm just going to take some of that off so it doesn't look exactly the same. Let's put another little hump into that rock so it looks different. And as my eye starts to narrow down now on some of these rocks, I'm going to add a bit of open medium too. Open medium will keep it wet. It adds a bit of transparency, but it also adds a thickness to your paint so it's easier to draw. So I can come up on the side of this rock and add, you know, maybe some receding plane marks and stuff like that. I can do more of a sketching technique. My paint's a little thicker. Let's go a bit of a medium value receding color right in here. So that will cause, that medium value will cause that receding plane there. There we go. Pull that down. So you see it's strong verticals and horizontals. Let's pull a bit more and maybe make this a nice strong vertical. Give a lot of height to that rock right there. We'll play this one right up against the edge of the water there. So we'll put some water right up against the edge there. They're fun, you know, and the thing is you want to try to paint them as spontaneous as possible. And that's going to come from different colors, different brushes, the knife, some different movements here. Now, let's go back, while we have this small brush, let's go back up here. We have our grays. We have the warm we like. We have a little bit of that blue, which will help gray it. Let's get back up into some nice warms, some yellows here. Slightly different color than we used before. Let's just lay this on right in there, right? And maybe a touch of the shadow. I got to feel like it might be a bit of a shadow plane right there, which I can add right in. But we'll take some of this light edge of this rock, maybe make it stop right in there, like the light stops. You could, you know, put in a more specific shadow if you wanted, you know, fall the edge of a shadow. I'm just going to go right to a receding halftone. So it's halfway between the light and the shadow, and let that rock kind of fall down. Now, on this edge, that rock is kind of hanging over the edge. I'm not too bothered by it, but since it is a little bit of a worry, I'm going to take it out. I'm going to use a little extender just because I want this color to be a little thinner. And so I need a bit more burnt sienna, a bit more warmth. That's a little too cool, even though I kind of like it. It's a little too cool. So let's just blur this into some of those trees there as well. Blur those edges right there. Blurry edges are really good stuff. But I want this rock. You can see on that big one there, I kind of cleaned up this rock right here so it really comes forward so you can see what the edge will do. So I'll clean up this edge, take some of this right back up into the trees here, clean that up a bit. You can see that really pops that rock forward, right? It really, really does. Let's put a bit of this light, maybe right down a little edge here, right? Here we go. Let that be like 2. Let's give see, this is where you can start dividing it up into smaller little planes here. Broken edges and planes here. And shape up your rocks a bit more if you want more stuff going on. Maybe I want a little more light coming down this direction here. I'm looking at the planes, and putting out a whole bunch of different rocks that you can look at will really help you, to help you make those decisions, what you want to do. Let's really lighten up this rock right here. I like that. Let's put a bit of that light right over here. Now, before I used that knife, see, and now I'm using the edge of my brush, a smaller brush this time, giving a little different look. This has a touch of blue in it. I'm going to let that. But as I paint prettier rocks, what I do is I start you don't paint the whole rock now. You're touching smaller little areas. Does that make sense? Little areas. As you're, bringing in some of this casting light right in here. Let's get a little more light. It's striking right here onto this one, down that edge, right in here on this plane, dragging it. See, I love the fusion brushes because they just drag the heritage acrylics so perfect. We designed them for that. We actually designed them first for the watercolor brush and then made a slight modification, and they work so fantastic for these techniques. And so now you get these beautiful looks of these rocks and stuff here. And I can take a little halftone and add some more pock marks and interest to the rock. Here, break up just a bit here. As you can see, it just adds more interest. I've got too much, a little bit samey same there, so I want to get rid of that. And one of the other colors I really like, I did it on that one almost there, is some of that real warm glow color of the burnt sienna and diarylide. It's such a beautiful warm color to use on a painting like this that has a lot of warmth into the back. See, it's just such a beautiful warm color, diarylide and burnt sienna. To use that on a bit of these rocks here. It's kind of nice. But so, overall I like that, except for this is just too much 1, 2, 3. That's my left brain. I always talk to you about that. That's my left brain. I do like on the other one where I created that larger shadow. So I have most of the stuff in place there. I just have to reshadow or pull up here. Pull this up more towards the shadow. Get rid of this one. And let's let this right back here set more of the shadow plane of that rock here. That's better. And maybe just an edge or so of this light coming in a receding plane right down through there. Change up so it doesn't look 1, 2, 3. Does that make sense? There's 1,000 ways you can do it. And that's up to you as the artist to pick which way that you want to do that. So I like that. I think this is too much of a line right here. Okay, so what do you do about it? Well, we use tree erasing medium. We're going to take some burnt sienna and some green, some of the colors that are of our tree back there, and let's just drop down and take some of this out. And I have to use real thick paint because I put on some texture on that rock. So I'll use some thick paint and create a bit of the vertical movement here. But this is really what I love to do in painting the rocks and stuff, is look at my composition now as I'm pulling through some of this. And I'll change a few things here and there. Change some of the structure. And it's really easy to do. I'll let even some of that green and stuff come forward into the edges there of that rock. And it really helps blur it and send it further back, see? So I'll just let some of that happen. Let's bring this forward. Let's do it with the knife. It's been a while since I've used a knife. Let's bring some warmer beige, a little bit of white. If you're towards the front of your rock, in towards that light, make sure you get some of that beige and stuff in there, right? There we go. Just some of those colors right there, right into that. So now we've changed the whole structure of that 1, 2, 3. Does that make sense? And it's really easy to change. I don't get frustrated on anything. I look at it and go, well, let's see. Let's change that just a bit. And that's easy it's really super easy to change. Here, let's take some of our burnt sienna and some of that yellow and add some of that back into this front light edges, up into the front of those rocks. And then we'll bring some of the light right back up on top of that. Those are all little marks that I like to do that I'll bring more interest, more color interest into your rocks. A lot of artists, and I was one of them for years, I made them, they were just white. Does that make sense? Just white and gray, and they're not. They carry all kinds of colors in them. And so we want to impart some of that color and stuff in those little pock marks and little things into them that just make them. Okay, so now you see this come in, and I'll add some more stuff to it. I love that burnt sienna and that Diarylide, just such a great glazing little color. And I want some of that warmth coming through. Those are some of the stuff that you see in the back of the painting. But so I've got this nice cool here, which is what you see on cool rocks, over there. But I want to get a little bit more of the light. So I want just a touch more. Let's get even some of this yellow into some of these grays. Just a touch of that blue to help keep it gray here. Let's increase the light right up on the edge of this rock. And you got to remember, this is acrylic, so it's going to dry a value or so darker, right? So I want to make sure I really see the light here because it's going to dry darker. Does that make sense? So a bit of that light here coming down this plane of that rock there, right? We'll push a bit of the dark pockmarky little grays in there to break it up a bit here. But it's going to dry. It looks really, really light, but it'll dry down darker. Here, let's put some of that nice light right in there. Some of that light right in there. So this is where the light is kind of coming through the trees, hitting some of that. We want to, just have a few touches of that here on these rocks. And then it comes back a bit grayer, not quite as light here. More broken edges and stuff like that. But So I get this feeling of light and stuff coming back through and hitting some of those edges. And I like that. Bit of that Diarylide and burnt sienna here. Some of that hitting, I'm using just the corner of my brush here to set in some of those real super warm colors and then some cooler colors here as they come down towards these shadow areas here. I'm going to break this. It's really too much of a light dark real quick, so I'll just push a half tone right along the edge there and just soften that edge of that light. So, and then you look for, varying structure. Maybe this light comes across the front of the rock here a bit further before it goes down into that water, right? Right across that. So, yeah, it just gives you nice shapes of these. Yeah, just boom. Some of those shapes on those rocks. Really kind of pretty as that comes through. Now, okay, let's just make sure. I'm going to take some more, might have to get out some more burnt sienna. Burnt sienna blue, some of my shadow, some extender so it's not real dark, a little transparent. I'm going to push in some of the horizontals that I want to see. This is going to be a fall right here. So when I say it's not like a waterfall, it's the fall of the rocks coming down right here. So I want a couple areas here. It's a little gray where the rock will stick up. So I'm going to start the water, and then I'm going to pour some of this water right over the rocks here. So some of this shadow here, some of this, I'll drop this down so I can drop some water right over the edge here. You got to make sure if you're going to pour water down through something that your shadow up here, your linear line is higher, so it will look like a drop. Does that make sense? Yeah, and let's take a little blue and a little red. Nice, little different dark. Drop some of that shadow in there. Some of this nice, right where that water is going to bubble. We'll drop some shadow in there. Blues, burnt siennas, reds. So we want some shadow, nice linear here. Does that make sense? So a little extender, some blue, not a tremendous amount of blue. But we'll push some of that through, blur that back here, blur it out so it's not like a solid line. Drop some through, and we'll drop some of this nice shadowy, but real soft blue, not a strong blue at all. We can get too strong very quickly, so we want to be careful, right? We don't get it too much. Okay, these two rocks are too much samey here. So we'll change that just a bit. A little blue, a little gray. Drop this one down a little further. Maybe even raise it up a bit higher. Here, bit bigger, different size. They were too much same. Drop just a mark there. That's better. So I'm looking for, differences and stuff. That can go right down to the water. These light colors, little touches can go right down to the water. Maybe a little bump of that drop right there. That looks kind of neat. Changing, making sure all your rocks are they're all just a bit different from each other. Let's put a smaller little rock right in there. Just the idea of a little rock, okay? All right. So now what we do is water is really, put it out of a glass of water. It's clear. So a lot of this is pretty much done, but wherever the sunlight and stuff comes through, it will reflect the sky. And that's why I started on that one and I wanted so much light through it and started so much of the blue in the sky. And it was a good juxtaposition to go against all that dark. I'm not going to do that much this time. So I'm going to take my softer, I want the water to be a little bit more violets and stuff here. I'm going to take my softer, instead of, on that one over there, you'll see I used a lot of the blues and the phthalos and stuff. I'm going to add some, I'm going to use my softer sapphires this time. Some browns and softer sapphires, maybe a few of these colors in here, and open medium to keep the transparency to it. I'm going to slowly work into the water this time, and I'm going to paint a lot of it coming through here, horizontal, and not too much blue here. Just water's going to come through. I will create the drop in the water with some of my lighter colors here. So this water is going to drop right down through here, and I'm just going to pull right down. And this is the one thing that the open medium really does. It gives you the feeling that you've got thick paint, but you really don't, and it's giving you a certain amount of transparency. And so you're seeing the depth of the water underneath, the bottom of the rocks and stuff like that. So, you're seeing it fall down here. And we'll go right back up to the top just a bit. As I go further back, then I'll add some of that white into there to create that little bit of the sunlight hitting that edge there, right back like that. And, we might take a real soft and just continue, just blur out like this. Boom, continue the idea of the shoreline back there. Continuing on, maybe a few little rocks. Just the idea of that back there, right? But we're going to come forward with this real soft, not as blue as I did back there. You see more blue. But both of them work. It depends on where the light is. Does that make sense? Okay. So I will take some of this. Now, as I come forward, I will add a touch of that blue and burnt sienna. As I come forward here, right up in here, I will add a bit of that first into the horizontal movements here, right like that, a bit of that other blue and stuff in there. And again, I'm not even going to go as blue as what you see on those photos. I don't want to do that. I'm going to go back to my bigger brush. I got some white in it, so I'm going to rinse that out, clean this out a bit here. Okay, and let's come back in here. Little blue, little blue. It's very easy, very, very easy, guys, to go too blue. And you don't want to go too blue. We want to keep the blues, the violets here. We want to keep this really, really soft because we're going to build some movement, water movement in here as well. So we want to blur right into our rocks, our edges there, like that. But we don't want this to be like super blue. I'll change and add a little bit of blue here like this, right? But I don't want this to be super blue. I want some of these colors of the rocks and stuff to come through as well. So, and there's just the thing is, there's just 1,000 ways to do it, but keep it, but you do what I always loved, the whole term, sneak up on it. In other words, don't go in there with a huge change, sneak up on it, slowly sneak up, adding the colors here. Because see, I don't need too much of this blue in here. Blue is the sky. So if you're painting something in shadow, you're not going to have blue into this water, right? And so it's only the bubbling of the water where the light is hitting is what's really going to give you that feeling of that. So of water, and so, but we'll, I might right down in here create, I like down on that one, and you can see it right up here, this little pool of violets and blues. That's kind of pretty here. So, and we don't want that too bright, so some burnt sienna in there. But we might think about this little pool, because that darker right in there really helps with the feel of the water, but it's water down in shadow. Does that make sense? It's down here in shadow. But how much and what you do, this is going to be up to you. This is yours, you know, your kind of technique. So before I add any of the movement, I'm going to take my bigger brush and pull down a bit, pull across a bit, blur it. This is the blurring that I like to do. So this is but this blurring also calms the water. And if you want to have real movement and stuff to the water, you don't want to blur it too much. You know, that's up to you. But so lightly, like right over here. So if I do this lightly and let some of this, you'll start to get the impression of transparent water, stuff underneath. Does that make sense? And I want that. Okay. I want to keep that. Now, as I come forward here, I'm going to take some of my open medium, quite a bit of it, and I'm going to take some white, some of my other blues, and I'm going to model this all together till I see that white disappear here. So there's the white. This is not white anymore. This will be carrying some of the other colors and the violet colors and stuff like that that I want. But I've got a lot of open medium in it, which means I'm going to have transparency here, which I want to create some of the light movement here of the water coming through. So, and it's really easy with your knife, with your brush, with the open medium, because the open medium is so transparent. So you just drag it here. Just drag it through here. And so as where before, like onto that one, I added a lot of blue to it, which I like, and you guys can go watch that one. This one, I'm going to keep it more light gray. So to pull down here, I want water coming down this. I'm just going to start, just like I do the plane of a rock, and I'm going to fall that water right down here. Try not to go too many times through it. You'll lose the spontaneity of that. Let what happens, happens. Let it just happen here. And we'll just drop this back. We'll drop some of this, you know, sometimes I'll go over here now to my smaller brush and just give like the idea of some of this coming right around that little rock there, right? But this isn't white, right? You saw me, this is not white. Look at the white to here. I'm way down, I'm a couple values darker. And the whole trick here is darkness. And I'll just lightly touch the brush here to create the movement of the water. That's a little too high here, so I'll take some of it side to side here. And then look for that movement too. And if I get too much of it, I just push it back and bring that shadow back up here, right? Maybe just a little bit more with some blue. Another little mark here. There we go. Right around. Sometimes use just a corner of the brush and just tap it around. You'll create the splash. Sometimes I'll wipe my brush like this if I feel like it's too much movement, and then just real softly pull through and reduce some of that movement coming around that rock there. So if I feel that's too much, I'll just blur it out a bit. It's not really too much, but then we're going to splash it here in a minute down along this base. So I'll pick up a little bit more white with some open medium, about 1 to 1. And so it has just a touch of white into it here. And that's going to create the lighter splashes of some of that water, right? Sometimes it's just a real bit of light and a gray. And that's all you need to, especially as you come into the shadows, to say water. You don't need that much. So don't do that much here. to say water, let's bring up a little bit of shadow of a rock right here. Boom, maybe that's just a little light blue and a tan color here. Push in like the idea of a little rock. Let's bring the light in a little tan and the color here lighter right in here. Bring that rock right up above that water. So you see that right there. And, you know, make just a bit of the blue and light right there. So you're looking at the plains and then the dropping down of that water. See? Looking at the plains. Here. Some of that coming right back here. Little splash. Just a corner of the brush. Little splashes here. Bring some of it back forward. Some of it back in here. It doesn't take very much to say water. Does that make sense? So you can see the difference here now with this one and then back with that one, which has a lot more blue in it. Matter of fact, let me just hold this up here. You can see the difference between the two, see? And so you can see that here that's just flowing down, and I made it really flat and then I started to drop it. But here I wanted a more, you know, a more gentle, you know, dropping of the water through. So, yeah. But the knife works really, really well for giving you some of that. Make sure that you have, you know, that open medium. That's the key in there. Get that open medium, or real thick extender gel works real nice. But that's what you want in here to create some of that feeling of these rapids and movements of water and stuff. And then the more splashes you create, the more physical, faster water you create. Does that make sense? So I'm just going to pull this, like it's coming right over some of those rocks right there. Little splash marks coming forward here. Maybe a bit of it comes, you know, I call it weaving the water into the rocks. So let's take a brush and just smooth it out just a bit here. Don't take away all that movement. Leave some of those little splashes and stuff, right? And maybe right here, why don't we do this? Why don't we pour some of that right down here? Just follow the shape of the, and all you have to do is add a few streaks. So come back with just a little bit more texture and add just a few streaks of it right in there. And let some of this just softly come back up there. And let's just add a few little tap marks there. Here, this has got a bit of a movement there. You can smooth that out just a touch there, but leave some of that, leave some of this, you know, light sitting right on top of the dark. And, you know, it gives you that transparency with that bubbly feeling of the water. Does that make sense? That's what you want. And if you notice, I'm using a lot of horizontals. Now, here on some of these, you'll see them pulling down at angles, and that pulling down at an angle is going to give you more fast movement of the water. Like I can increase the feeling of the movement of the water here if I take some of my color here and I pull it down like that. I will increase the movement or the feeling of the movement of that water. Does that make sense? And then right where the water comes down, you want to have a few little splashes. Maybe a couple of those light shimmers and stuff coming further back up the water, but that's how you do it. Here. There we go. Just like that. Right? And so I mean, I really enjoy that. But so here on the other one, I move the water for more of an angle. Here I'm going to go more side to side. So you see the differences between the two here. I'll move this water through. I don't want quite as much light action through it. In other words, you know, I don't want quite as much movement action in it. I'm just going to take this and just burnish this in a little bit over here. So here we go. A few little splashes. The water's coming forward. Maybe a few little splashes here. Here. So the water is very much different. Not as blue, not as much light showing through here. I like that. I want to add just a touch more churning to the water right in there. It just came off of a big one or a bigger one here. I like that bit of the rock right there, and the fact that some of this is going to go right up over this. We can see if you angle it like this, you make it feel like it just went over another rock. So we can drop that down. We can pull this way, make it look like it's, or feel like it's just pulling right down here over another rock. And you can put another rock there. So you got this zigzag going through that might be kind of nice. Here, the feeling of it, right? You're directing it. And see, this open medium just slides really nice. Derivan did a great thing. We worked with them on this, and they did a great thing in developing this. Yeah, this is acrylics coming into the new generation of acrylics that can do these fun things, make it look just like oil, but yet you have the safety, non-toxicity, and environmentally safe bits of the acrylic. It's not that you can't do it with oils too, you can, but you know, this is no worries here whatsoever. So here we'll just blur this out a bit. I think I've got too much movement right in there, so I'll show you how we take that out. But it's also nice too to like take your knife edge and run it against some of the edges of your rocks and put those light edges, those water edges up in there. Some light, a little bit dark, put some of the water edges up in there, because that's what they'll have here, right? There we go. Pull some of that down, which gives you that feeling of reflection or calmness to the water. Little eddies there. So I like to make like if I get into details, I like to make like a little eddy and just a little line right there. That just works so nice, right? And let's take some of this dark and push some of that back out again right in here. Now it's a little too purpley, so I want to get some of these warm tones back in there as well. So I want to get some of these warm brown tones back in there here. So it's like other little bits of the bottom and stuff coming in there. There we go. I really like the look of the paper towel. That's that impressionism that is just amazing. I like that kind of stuff here. But, you know, and again, right in here, take the edge of your knife, little bit of paint, create the edges of that water up against the edges of the rock here, like that. Just the ideas of that. And let's do this a little more soft this time. But I do like that. Pull that. You can burnish and pull that across a bit. So it's a little bit different now. So, and if you don't like it quite like this and you like the blue one, but maybe the blue one's too blue, then add a little more phthalo to everything that I do and push a little more blue into your painting. Does that make sense? So you can, I'm not going to paint it again. I like this one now. I've got this fall of the rocks that I like, and I'm going to probably take a little bit of time here this afternoon and add just a bit more, some of my shadow planes here, you know, work up some of the differences on my rocks a bit more, and clarify some of the falls, some of the the drops and stuff of the rocks in the water. And see how this is still wet? I can just pull it like that, give that little bit of blur, and it makes it look like that water's just falling down that side here, right? Yeah, just like that. Here. Here we go. Extra little rock there. And this is the part I just love. You can come in and, we'll push this bit higher there. Maybe the idea of another little rock there. Couple of them right up there, disappearing. Some burnt sienna, some blue, various amounts of that. Burnt sienna and blue and stuff. So, yes. Hi, baby. Yeah. Yeah, I got the dog just came in and laid right underneath me, so now it's hard to get to the palette. Yes, I see you. Yeah. So I'll push a little bit more color differences and a little more light and shadow here. When I work with the shadows, though, I do like them slightly thinner. So see, I can bring the edge of this rock up and create more visual depth in that scene right there, right? So, this, and it's the edges, right? It's edges and everything, like I say. It's edges and stuff that really create the visual depth. And so I want to modify, work, clean up, drag some of this down into the river a bit, some of this shadow. Makes it look like the rock underneath. You can put up just a bit of a water line there, see? And so it's a little lost right in here, so maybe I take a bit of that shadow. I'll keep that shadow there. And then let's increase the lightness here on this rock. Maybe a bit more light. You sure are noisy under there, keepers. You sure are noisy. So a little bit more light underneath this one. So I'll be looking for some of the depth where I want that cooler color and lighter color. Does that make sense? So now I will, work on that. So that's my cooler color. Maybe over here, some of my warms, a little bit of blue, but medium beige and a little bit of blue so that keeps it kind of gray, but a nice warm color, warmer color over here, coming through here, right up over there. So I got a warm and a cool breaking of my colors. And I can take some of that cool here and use that to develop some side planes of these rocks here, But I want touches of this really nice, warm, beige, yellow, hitting right here, especially some of these real light. That's where I want light expressing into the light and shadow. Does that make sense? Light here and shadow. So, and then I'll do that up onto the water. So maybe right up here, I'll even take some white with just a little bit of the color in it. And I'll hit some of the areas here where that light, where I see light coming through the composition. So it's hitting there, see? It's not over here into the shadow. It's hitting right in here. Maybe this falls through a bit right here. But we'll get some of this bouncing light through, a little warmer light here. A little bit warmer light right in here. And so we'll push that right in there. And so now you're really getting contrast in there, and you can push in with your knife and manipulate that around too. I like the knife because it's more natural sometimes than the brush, So you get some of that light hitting right in here. But we do want, I've got a lot of horizontal there I need to pull down. I want to get some of that pulling down here. that this is coming right from here, falling down that rock right there. That's better. Some of that light hitting right up in here, coming through. There we go. Like that. Yeah. And, you know, you can calm that down a little bit, but boy, look at some of the other stuff. It's not always that calm, you know, but be little with these lights. You don't need much. Be little with those lights. Doesn't take much. Let me just rinse my brush, and you can see you can lift off with just a little water. You can lift off some of that there. But yeah, maybe a little bit more light and that warmth hitting right here on the edge of that rock, so you definitely see that light. Does that make sense? You want that warm light hitting right in there. It's hitting on all those rocks right on that side. And then the rocks are, you know, after that, the rocks are cooling down, heading into shadows and stuff like that. You know, that good stuff. Let's get a bit of the yellow and burnt sienna. Some of that real favorite color here. That glow. I added this, you know, into the, see, I love that glow. That glow is going to come forward. I added this into that. If you really want to see that, add that into the almost there, that western that I painted. I really liked that warmer yellow glow I got on those rocks right up in the front. And I'll usually paint that glow in, and then I'll add some grays to help take some of that out here. Yeah. And this is the broken color though, see? This is the broken color. I'll get that light back up in there. There we go. Break it all up. That makes the rocks look more natural. A little bit of that glow. There. Like that. There we go. Yeah, that's kind of pretty. It gets that light right in there. But, you know, a little bit more refinement, you know, coming in and working your edges a bit more might be called for on this paint, just to clean up an edges, a few of them there. But I like the impressionism of it, of nothing being too perfect. I do like that. Let's put just a touch of light. Maybe it's just hitting right there. Just a touch of light. Just a little mark of it right there. And before it goes on to that receding side here. There, like that. Yeah, so you got light, and maybe hit a few little marks of light here going back. Yeah. And I think we got a good look. So I will probably, with this one, since I will probably look at it throughout the rest of the day. It's early in the morning still here. Got up early to paint this, so I'll still look at that and get that. I like it. I like this little different look to it. I like the movements that you have in here. Now, you can smooth that out. Let me just show you. I like the brush marks. I like the calligraphy on it, but I like to show you guys. So if you take so many times I tell you, water is your friend with the acrylics, and with the Heritage, you got a couple hours to do this, but you can take just a clean brush with a little bit of water. If I wanted to smooth that out, see, I can smooth that just like that and create, just come back like this and just light pressure and just create a little bit of smoothness into some of the movements of that water. Extender will do it, but not as easy as water. Water is your solvent, so water will do it pretty easy. Does that make sense? So you can come in like this. So if you don't like the power of the brush mark, you can soften your edges like this. Just come in and just move some of it a little softer. And this is why I love the acrylics. So I can just, it's almost like blending it in, softening that down and giving you a different look. I'll soften this down a bit. See, maybe pull that edge right there, like that, right? But I like that kind of zigzag. That one right there falls a little bit more. Does that make sense? But yeah, use that water. So like right in here, I can bring up the bottom, and soften that out a bit right here like that by just pulling that horizontal. See? And, you know, it gets rid of the churniness of the water. Now, sometimes I like to do this with just a big brush, sometimes, because a small brush is going to give you some movement still. Does that make sense? You know, but maybe I want just a little bit more of that light moving through here and diminishing down. Maybe it falls one more time right here. Maybe we fall the water one more time. And then I can, so I kind of like that, but then we can come back with a little water and just smooth it out. Does that make sense? Just like that. So I'll clean my brush, clean some of that out, take it just a damp brush. I pinch wipe it in my, so I don't have much water, and I'll pull across, and that's what gives you that little bit of blurry. You know, I do like, because I don't want to get rid of it too much, I do like a bit of those marks. You know, the marks coming through. I do like that. Just, and that gentle falling of that again. Let's angle that a little bit more. There we go. That gentle falling of that water. And I like the little marks like this coming through, you know, just little bits of it coming through. And, you know, sometimes you get those and you go, oh yeah, that's great. And you think, oh, I'll touch it one more time because that'll be great. And you screwed it up, you know. Don't you just hate that? I've always wanted as a chemist and as a paint chemist to create what I call delete medium. You can just dress your little knife in it and take out the mark you just made that screwed it up, you know. So yeah, I'll work on that someday as I retire. There we go. Something like that. Here. Here. Just little movements like that of that through there. And let's just take just the edge of our knife here and just move some of that forward like that. There we go. That's pretty good. But you know, there's things like that little rock right there. I might want to, let's get a little bit of our burnt sienna and blue. Round this up a little high so it comes, so it's definitely, you're on the shadow side of that rock and everything is swirling around the rock. Maybe pinch wipe this, and that blue right there is a little wet, and just pull it over the edge just a bit here to distort that rock into the water, right like that. That works pretty well. So you can do the same thing back up over here. And that, you know, you want that really nice edge like right in here that says, you know, that water isn't going over that rock right there. But that's pretty good. So just like that, okay? So there you guys go. Have a good time with it. I think I might put a little more light up on that front top up there. I might look, that's the hard thing about acrylics, is that when they're drying down, you know, you think that you got it and then they dry down. And you have to usually come back a couple times and lighten them up. But look for that. You want this up in here like an 8, a value 8 or 9, right up in that area where that light is hitting it, you know. That's a real good call there. I like a little bit of the blue and the gray right in here. Just a little side note of that. I like that on the other rock I did. But look at both of them. Those of you that are membership of the channel, look at both of them and, you know, decide. I left a little more of a harsh line on the rock. I might put that in. One last thing here. A little bit, because I do like that slightly uneven, harsher line. shadow line right in there on this one, because it's a major rock here. And so having that more of a shadow line on it right there is kind of important. Let's push some of that depth right in here, some of that shadow right there on that. That pushes that. You could, but you know, this is the beautiful thing about it, and the fun thing about painting rocks is you can instantaneous, now that you get the broken color on them, you know, you can change their whole impression really easy. And that's what's really nice. So that's kind of nice. You can change all of that impression really easy of what that rock really looks like, just because you have the broken color already established. So that looks pretty good. But yeah, and I like it, the fact that I have some nice pointed ones and some some rounded ones. That's really nice. I tend to always just like paint them as, you know, the same kind of size and stuff. So, you know, having some broken ones there, yeah, is good. Okay, so there you go. So, you know, take a look at the other one. I'll put that up into the, you know, into the membership. It's been several weeks since I've posted a video into the membership, so we'll put that one. I'll edit that one over there, and that one, and put that up into the membership, and you know, then I will put this one, of course, up into the general channel. I probably will do a little bit more in here, but I do like the simplistic. I like that your eye comes right in here. This is very, very simplistic here, but that's up to you. Do you do more, whatever it is, that's up to you. Just do not do it as light as here, and you'll get a nice light to dark into your painting, okay? And of course, if you want even more, you know, you know, depth and stuff like that to it, you know, more refinement to it, you can. You can take this and refine it a little bit more. I like the spontaneity of it, don't you, huh? Yeah, yeah, yeah. She's saying it's time to go outside, huh? Yes, you good girl. Yeah. Anyway, come here and say hi to everybody. You haven't said hi in a little bit. Come on, come up here and say hi. That girl. Come on. Oh yeah. Come on, you can do that. I have one of those mats here that is, yeah. Oh, you're not going to do it. I have one of those chair mats here, and she's slipping on it. My lab here. Yeah. But anyway, thanks very much, and I'll see you guys. We'll do some more. I have some of the, like I said to you, in that one there. You know, I am going to paint that Appaloosa and the Indian, you know, in honor of the American Indians, and do some more Westerns that way. I have those other portions. I have that Trumpeter Swan that I still want to get to with you guys, a lot of them, and a lot of your requests and stuff. So we're after the first of the year. I'm going to get back into the filming and, you know, try to get 1 to 2 of the big long ones each week, and then a couple of the shorts. We've refined the shorts. The shorts work really well. And so I'm going to use those for technical advice, small little 3-minute shorts on like maybe a half tone or a blending, or what does this medium do and stuff like that. So keep your eye on the shorts too. Floral painters, head on over to our other channel, the Paint It Simply channel, because I'm painting trays over there on that one, okay? All right, guys, thanks so much. We really appreciate the support. Don't forget to smash that like button down there. The amount of likes the video gets really helps in the distribution, okay? And don't forget to hit subscribe to both our channels, right? Right? Yes. Okay. Thanks very much, guys, and I'll see you on the next one. Yeah. Well, come up here. Oh, well, come up here. Come up here. Yeah, you're a good girl. You can do it. Yeah.